All right.
Hey, C21 Veterans, Ken Morawski and Melanie Banks coming to you from two very separate locations based on the fact that we are not allowed to even talk to each other from 2 feet away. So we choose to do it this way. Mel, where you at today?
I am in very breezy Levittown.
Yeah, it's going to get ugly here today, man. I hope everybody's safe. If you have trash cans out back, you might want to tie them down. This is going straight into Annie M status. So it's going to be ugly today. So anyway, just wanted to get together with you guys a little bit and put some things out. As you know, or as you should know, on Tuesday, the Department of State issued a 2-page memo explaining the rules as we know going forward. And that 2-page memo was so clear that Hank Lerner, who is PAR's chief counsel, took 4 pages this morning to clean it up.
It was
So
complicated, man.
very complicated. I mean, there's a lot of moving parts to this. The underlying theme is safety. Read both, but understand that PARS is much clearer. It's a little more in depth. There's examples. There's a lot of things in there that will help you get through this and make decisions going forward. I think it's important to understand that we're all kind of trying to figure this out. There's no light switch going back on, and we're all going back to the same way we did business 2 months ago. The way we did business 2 months ago, in more ways than one, is done and no longer exists. So we're going to have to get ready for that. So what does that mean? Melanie, what does that mean?
Well, let's talk about the Department of Labor real quick. There's a couple ways that you guys could go back to work carefully, safely, CDC guidelines. If you had a seller that had a house that they had under contract before March 18th, and they haven't found a house yet because they're unwilling to look at this remotely, they are now allowed to do showings to find their new future home, which I think is kind of cool, kind of important. You also have the ability to do showings if your a tenant of yours is looking for a house or a rental, and they gave notice to their landlord prior to March 18th as well that they were leaving at the end of their lease, or their landlord gave them notice that said, get out. So those are the 2 reasons you can show houses at this point. So if a seller had the house already under agreement before March 18th, or the tenant had a letter before March 18th saying they were leaving. So right now, those are the only 2 things that you can do.
I mean, there's a couple other things that you may want to think about. I guess suffice it to say that so that I understand this, Mel, if a buyer client, seller client wakes up this morning and says to you, hey, can you come and list my house? The answer to that is still no. Right?
Yes, correct.
That it's still virtual.
Yes.
If a buyer says, hey, can you show me a house today? You just met them today. The answer to that question is still no.
Correct.
So, again, we're trying to figure out how to wrap up some of the things that we had going on, or take people out of bad situations. Again, a renter that disclosed that they weren't moving, weren't staying or extending a lease, he's got their hands full right now. They got to be out in no time. So, so that's all they're trying to clean up right now until we get further guidance on that. We don't want to mislead anybody on that.
Right. So hopefully the bill that Todd introduced into the House that passed, and it passed with pretty good numbers, is going to the Senate and hopefully the governor. And if those get passed, then that means real estate will be able to go back very modified. So the Department of Labor letter and any modification to real estate, it's all kind of going to look the same. You are going to have to wear gloves. You are going to have to wear booties in a house, or leave your shoes outside would be my preference. You are going to have to, I already said mask, right? Mask, gloves, booties.
Yeah.
And we're going to have some sort of guidelines that we're going to have to put in front of a seller and a buyer. You can't just go back to normal. So you've got to have some sort of normalcy for a seller and some sort of normalcy for a buyer, and what they expect from you as the agent. So we're going to put a seller best practices together and a buyer best practices. So like on a buyer's best practice, it's going to say, bring your mask, bring gloves. They're not going to have booties, so it's going to be up to an agent. So you got to leave the shoes outside. Kind of walk the buyer through what's going to happen. When they're doing showings, don't touch door handles, don't turn light switches on. And for the seller, the guideline kind of has to say the same, right? You got to tell the seller what to expect. Ken and I were going through this today, and people were leaving hand sanitizer, gloves, and a trash can inside the front door. I do not want your cooties in my house. So it's best
What?
to actually tell the seller to go ahead and leave a trash can outside of the front door, and maybe a small $10 or $15 table from Walmart that they can put a couple gloves, maybe a couple booties, whatever they're asking for outside, along with some sort of wipe or, hand sanitizer that they can use after they've shut the door and after they leave. The gloves are outside. It makes it a whole lot more sanitary for the seller to have to clean up. So those are kind of things that we don't really think about. You're also going to have to tell the seller, most of them are at home right now. They're not at work. They're home. So you're going to have to tell them what happens when a buyer wants to come into the house. One, they don't have to say yes. Some sellers are absolutely not going to have anybody in the house. If they do say yes, you've got to let them know you've got to step outside into the driveway. You can't be in the house with them. It's the agent and one other buyer. That's going to be all that's allowed right now, and they need to wait for them to vacate the property and they need to go back in. But before the client gets there, they've got to turn the lights on. They've got to open all doors. It's kind of weird for a seller to open up all their closet doors, but you don't want anybody touching the door handles. So those are kind of going to be the things that are in the best practices that we're going to put out. You guys can modify, edit, whatever you guys are thinking that you need to do for your own client and for your own buyers.
So the last thing, guys, the last thing we want to do is sound like an infomercial for the CDC.
I know.
But it's things that we never had to think about before, and now we'll have to think about going forward. And to that end, we're leaning back into getting back into business. So for the last couple of days, we've spent a little time getting the offices prepared. I think that going to the office and hanging out all day is probably at least a couple of months away. It's not the kind of thing that's going to happen. But while I'm on the subject, you got to think about it from your own perspective. I don't suffer from any respiratory conditions. Melanie does, right? She got asthma. So is an office environment, no matter how limited, is that the best place for somebody with those conditions to be in? We have a bunch of agents who, north of 60. Is being in the office the safest environment for you to be in? So you have to make that decision. We can only go so far and make it so safe and still have it open. People are going to come in and drop stuff off, and that's going to create problems and, all those things that go into it. So we just want you guys to think about your own personal safety on this. And that's kind of the overarching theme of this conversation is think about your own personal safety and what it's going to take for you to get back. And to give an example, my mom is 83 years old. She's 84. And she just had a birthday. And, Mom, it's all going to be okay. Don't worry about a thing. Another week or two, maybe it'll be fine. And she's like, well, I'm not going out until a week after they tell me it's okay, because I don't think they know what they're doing. And there's a lot of wisdom in that. I don't think anybody knows what they're doing. I think we're all trying to figure it out. So my request for all of you is to just think it through, decide whether or not the office is the best place for you or not, or keep work from home or not. I mean, again, we're trying to figure it out too. So whatever works for you personally.
Maybe even partnering up with another agent who might be able to show the houses for you and kind of work a deal as you go through. We're kind of all in this together. So it's not just what are you doing? What do you have to do? I don't want anybody to feel like they have to go back to work because of money. I would hope that they can talk to another agent in the building and work something out between two of you, between three of you on how to do this. So in regards to the office, office staff is going to stay home and for a bit, actually, during these, I don't know if you're
talking about the quarantine.
The red light, green light that we're playing with Governor Wolf. He's my favorite. I really love him. But we're playing red light, green light. So red phase is obviously what we're all in. We're not allowed to go out. We're not even allowed to look outside at this point, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
When we get into yellow phases now, and this is just so you guys know, even if this bill passes and real estate is back to, showing safely, the office is under the red, yellow, green. The office doesn't get to just say, okay, great, we're open back up. So if we enter the yellow phase, we understand you guys are going to have to print, you guys are going to have to scan, copy, stuff like that. So the offices have been set up, the copiers have been moved to a easier location to get into, where you are not roaming through the building, you're not touching stuff that we have to clean. So when we go yellow, you guys will be able to enter, you'll be able to use a computer and print and copy, but you can't work in the office.
Yeah.
So we're trying to set it up that things could be dropped off. Potentially things could be left, escrow checks, stuff like that, where we can kind of line stuff up and safely handle some business in a very confined 10 by 10 spot in the office. So once we go to green, we're going to need a little bit of time to make sure the office is where it needs to be because we don't have guidance yet for all of this. But we're going to have to work potential schedules. If the office that you're in is a little tight, we got to kind of figure out how that works. Do we have to put plexiglass, whatever we're going to have to do to make sure we're all going back safely to work. So that phase will take us a little bit. We think it's a little bit of the way far away anyway. So hopefully you guys are at least getting back to being able to list a house, show a house, that kind of stuff. So we have been preparing a little bit. I think you guys need to make sure that you're out buying your gloves, booties, hand sanitizer, masks, stuff like that.
You say booties, you mean shoe coverings,
I
right?
do mean those blue stupid shoe coverings.
Okay. All right. Booties.
Yeah, those things. So we need to make sure that you guys have those things. So we provided a couple times links and stuff like that. If you guys are interested in gloves, then you like beer or you don't like beer, the Ben Salem
Run or what? This is gonna be great. Listen up, everybody needs to get a pen in hand right now.
the Ben Salem beer distributor right on Street Road, right next to
Right at Unionville, right across the street from Fisher's, right near the
Wawa.
water. Y'all know where I'm talking about now if you do any work in Philly. Go ahead, Mel.
Go in there. The lovely lady is very, very nice. She has gloves of all sizes and boxes of gloves. So the masks, she has very limited supply of that. She's looking to try to get more in, and she is bringing in the booties actually for us. We're going to get them hopefully next week. So I really think you guys need boxes of gloves in your car because you never know when the client isn't going to have it. But we're also going to.
What's the best part of that, buying that stuff at the beer distributor, though?
Nobody else knows it's there.
It's a beer distributor.
Yeah.
You can also get beer there.
You also get beer.
You missed the best point.
Sorry, I missed the best point. You're right. So I would go get a box or two of gloves and I would throw them in your car because you never know when the client is not going to bring them or when you need them. So if you guys have that stuff, that's great. We have Carolina, the assistant over in Pennington. She has kindly, and we are donating to her fabric supply. She's kindly making us 50 masks for agents. So we will be dropping them off in both offices that you could grab one that you can reuse all the time. So you're not using one of the throwaways. Have some of the throwaways in the car for the client in case they don't show up with a mask. Most people at this point, they'll have masks, which is kind of cool, but we want you guys to have supplies. So we are bundling up smaller quantities where you can go in and get 10 pair of gloves, 3 or 4 masks, and let me know. We're hoping to have hand sanitizer as well, and the booties. They come in, I don't know, packs of 50 or something. So we're hoping to have that stuff at the office. We could just PayPal you an invoice, then you can just pay us that way. That way we're not handling cash, checks, stuff like that. But we're hoping to have it supplied, bagged up, and in the Bristol office so that you guys can come in and pick and go because I ordered I ordered masks like 4 weeks ago and they're still not here. So I think if you guys are starting to place your orders, you may not have them in time if you're going back to work. So hopefully we can help you guys out a little bit.
Yeah, man. I mean, we'll do the best we can to help you, but like anything else, man, you gotta take control of your own neighborhood. So,
and if anybody sees small bottles of hand sanitizer, let me know because I will go get them so we can have them at the office. Otherwise, I'm buying like a 50-gallon vat.
You're gonna grab a handful when you need it. Take it with you. Put it in a little baggie, PayPal you.
That was right. Big old vat of it'll be right in the middle of the office. It'll be great. So
there's hope, everybody. It's gonna happen.
I got mine. Mine is Miami Beach. I'm hoping to go back somewhere to a beach.
I think Miami's open, man.
Settlements, we're still doing settlements. We're good to go no matter what the date is on those. We talked to Joe the other day. Everything is still drive-through, which is super cool. So that process, we're pretty sure is going to go until the end of June on the drive-through. So settlements will not be in our office for quite some time. Bear with us a little bit when Britt asks you strictly for the date of settlement. The time is going to come from title. We really don't have too much control. So kind of give her the buyer would like the morning or the buyer would like the afternoon, but please don't give her the buyer needs 10:30 because that's just not going to happen with the amount of people. I think I heard there were 45 settlements at the drive-through today, booked for today. So,
Which is both good news for everybody involved, and yet a nightmare to schedule.
correct.
So
With them being
of
10
which,
minutes each, though, we're good to go, I guess.
are you going to hit on getting paid?
On what?
How do agents get paid nowadays? Because they don't go to settlements. So how do they know that, I'm just asking.
I have an unclaimed commission check
Yeah.
from somebody, and I would really like somebody to claim it and give me a HUD so that I can pay it. Yeah, so title companies are, some are putting them in the regular mail. Please don't let them do that. That I have a check still out there for, we're going on 14 days where we have not seen funds from the settlement, which means the agent cannot get paid. So if they say they're dropping funds in the mail, tell them that that's not acceptable. Either go get it and drop it in my personal mailbox at my house, or have them FedEx it. We also are doing ACH wires. So title companies can do it any of those ways except for regular mail. It's just not working. And I don't think that that's the title company's fault. I think that's the post office's fault. I think it's just a lot of stuff is delayed right now. So, and then once you do settlement, even if you don't attend and they're wiring money, please, please, please email Britt and I and let us know that you guys actually did a deal, that you settled the deal. You may or may not have the HUD or Alto because I understand title has that. Just let us know that we settled those so that we're looking for either the mail, the FedEx, or the check in the ACH because, again, I have an unclaimed commission check. If nobody claims it, it's mine. That's how that's working.
Nice.
My daughter's already claimed it. She said if nobody comes forward in the next 10 days, it's hers. It's kind of like a lost and found.
Better get busy.
It's a big check too, so she'd be super excited about that lost and found. But seriously, if you guys can get us, make sure you keep in contact with title because it ultimately, I know you're not going to settlement, but it is ultimately responsible as the agent to get that final document from title. So just simply send them an email at the end of the day saying, hey, can you forward me the final Alta and the marked up title? You guys, at this point, you do not want to not have a marked up title because everything is drive through, drive up, I don't know, hood of cars. We want to make sure it's all going correct and we want to make sure the seller and buyer are protected. So marked up title and Alta would be much appreciated in the file and I will pay you. Direct deposit would be preferred. Otherwise, you're getting a check in the regular mail.
We've already discussed how that goes.
Not good. It's not good.
They're not good. So I think that's all we have for today. We'll be on our regular call tomorrow, which was postponed by America's Finest, the Blue Angels. And oh, by the way, the Thunderbirds were with them. And that was fun too. Yeah, I heard all about that the other day. Didn't actually see any evidence of it, but
me neither. We sat outside for 35 minutes.
Yeah, it's kind of a long, funny story, but yeah. So we got preempted by those guys. Which, if you're going to get preempted, it's better than a lot of people. I'll tell you that. So we'll be on that call tomorrow. And as always, anything that you guys need, pick up the phone. We're here to help. We're here to try to muddle through this whole thing together. And if there is anything that we can do to make it a little bit easier for you to do that, then by all means, take a shot. It might work out for you.
I agree.
Yep.
Bye.
See you guys.